Anytime I talk about the Apple Card, I always hear the exact same comments from all of our international viewers. Yeah, that's all great, but I just want to know when the Apple Card is coming to my country. And I don't blame you, because apparently this thing is just too dang good of a deal. So good, in fact, that Goldman Sachs wants to hit the sack and back out on the partnership. Let's begin. I think this is overall good news. It's a report from Reuters, and technically it's not official confirmation of anything, but I'm inclined to believe it because I'm not exactly sure who would make up these kinds of leaks. When people talk about the iPhone removing the camera bump, yeah, I'm a little bit skeptical, but when Reuters is reporting on banking partnerships with Apple's credit card service, that's when I'm like, yeah, this is probably a bit more legit, because Goldman Sachs has been losing well over $1 billion on the partnership with Apple. And I did a video on this back last February talking about how it might be too good of a deal. It may be kind of a flawed product from the get-go, at least from a profitability standpoint, because what I've always been saying about the Apple Card ever since 2019 is that it's not all about like which card has the best rewards, which ones get 2% here and 3% there. It doesn't really make a huge impact, at least with a free tier 2 credit card. But what sets the Apple Card apart from everybody else is the simplicity. It's the software, it's the UI. It's so easily integrated into the wallet app on the iPhone. It makes it painfully hard to miss payments and makes it abundantly clear what your interest will be if you do end up missing a payment. So because it's just so simple and easy to manage, there's probably not that many people collecting overcharges on the Apple Card, which means that from a profitability standpoint, Goldman Sachs isn't making too much money on this thing. And a lot of you tried to defend it as, oh, well, they don't need to make money on the credit card, it's fine. They just want the clout and the pride of being able to work with Apple and say, see, we're coupled with the most valuable brand in the world. Well, according to Reuters, I think there's a limit at which that clout is willing to be extended. Like, okay, yeah, we're working with Apple, but geez, this is getting really freaking expensive. So there can come a point where a product is too good of a deal and Apple doesn't care because they're not handling the back end of the finances of it. Goldman Sachs is the one that's having to pay all these bills by giving out all these rewards and the daily cash and the interest-free financing for the people that want to do that. But we've already started seeing Apple starting to remove some of that interest-free financing, and maybe they were hoping by kickstarting this savings account program, Goldman would be happy by having a large influx of money deposited into their bank accounts, but because the interest rate is so high, maybe they're still not really comfortable with it. So what's interesting about this rumor is that Goldman Sachs has allegedly already signed into a contract with Apple, so they have to maintain this partnership until the end of the decade, or they have to sign off the responsibility of the Apple Card partnership to another bank. And according to the rumor, they're eyeing American Express as the next potential partner for the Apple Card. I think Apple's in probably a good situation here because they just get to say, hey, our Apple Card is cool and honest and fun for our users. It helps our iOS customers feel like they can't leave the ecosystem. But the rewards have just been kind of meh. It's a simple credit card. It gets the job done. Nothing crazy out there. And anytime I talk about Apple Card rewards, I'm constantly bombarded by the American Express sheep out there that love talking about how great the travel points are and all the rewards they get through their credit cards. Usually they're not free though. But a partnership between the Apple Card and American Express gets me excited for what kind of future rewards programs could be offered through the Apple Card if that partnership were to take place. And the best news about that is American Express is a very popular credit card overseas. In fact, it is one of the most popular credit cards across dozens of other countries outside of the United States. So if Goldman Sachs is able to push off that Apple Card partnership, as expensive as it may be, to American Express, there is a much greater chance that Apple would be able to export the Apple Card into other markets so that you guys watching internationally could benefit from this credit card as well. It would no longer just be a Yankee perk. The downside, though, is that I'm still trying to keep in context the fundamental flaw of the Apple Card, right? Its flagship feature is the simplicity of the UI. It's just how elegant and integrated it is. It's not confusing, and it encourages you to pay it off. Other credit cards might not be so simple and elegant and seamless when it comes to managing your finances and showing you what your potential interest charges would be. So if Goldman Sachs is losing over $1 billion on this card, what is Amex supposed to do any differently? Doesn't change the front end, what happens on the back end maintenance side of the card, all of that banking and loans going on back there. If this is still burning a hole in whatever bank's pocket, I think they might need to rethink their strategy with the Apple Card. And the reason I think it makes sense to do it now is the first people who signed up for the Apple Card, like me, way back in July of 2019, we're still rocking our same cards, but they're expiring in July of next year. So if Apple is going to be switching up their partnership with the banks or fundamentally changing the perks or partnerships with the Apple Card, perhaps because American Express is known for this, maybe they might try to transition the Apple Card or at least start offering more higher tier versions, which I've been asking for from the beginning, a tier 3 or tier 4 credit card with more competitive rewards, but it's no longer free. Now you have an annual membership for it because American Express appears to have had a lot of success with their higher tier cards, getting people to pay an annual fee to unlock certain travel points and travel benefits, and they seem to know how to make profitable credit cards. So there's a decent chance that if Apple started partnering with Amex, the rewards and the cost and the perks and everything about the Apple Card might have to fundamentally change, which kind of makes sense. If it's not turning a profit for the banks that they're partnered with, it doesn't really make much sense to expand on the Apple Card program. But the main takeaways from this is that it could potentially at least help the Apple Card come into more markets, which I know there's been a lot of interest in, and it just kind of makes me feel better about the Apple Card as a whole, is like so many people are using it and enjoying it, and they're not really collecting too much debt on it. So the bank that partnered with Apple on this is kind of like, can we stop now? We don't want to work with you anymore, and we're sorry we signed that contract with you. So good on Apple for covering themselves into this long-term commitment. No wonder they're a $3 trillion company again. And too bad for any bank that ends up picking it up, because it's just too freaking good of a deal. And I'm very curious to see how another bank from an outsider's perspective is going to try to make the Apple Card more profitable. I think it might involve taking away the daily cash system, especially now that they've launched the high interest savings accounts. I don't even use the daily cash card anymore. I basically just let all of those rewards go straight into the savings account, and I think Amex's solution is more of a point system so that you can redeem your rewards through travel credits. But I think the reason they do that is because they know the people who are traveling more often tend to be spending more money, and Amex charges a lot higher fees per transaction. And when you're traveling and booking hotels and taxis and flights, that means that even if you get some free flights and some free perks with your Amex, you're still probably going to be a more high usage user, and Amex collects a higher percentage of each transaction. But ultimately, that's also why a lot of third-party merchants don't even accept Amex in the first place. But I'm just excited there's some kind of like leaks and rumors going around about the Apple Card for the first time in forever, because it's one of those Apple services that like launched years ago and then basically like nothing changed. Like occasionally they offer some 3% cash back reward or 6% cash back somewhere else, but aside from that, it's still just been a tier 2 free credit card with a decent user interface. Now we've got some savings accounts added to it, and I'm hoping we get a checking account option in the future so that we could ditch our other banks, but one thing at a time. And hopefully American Express has some good news for us in the coming months. What do you guys think this partnership could mean? What would you like to see out of a Apple Card Pro? Matte black credit card, I think that's obvious. And should there be an Apple Card Ultra? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you all in the next one.